Chapter 4. A Wrestling Match. DeBro's muddy face brightened at Aiden's challenge. "Do I want to wrestle?" he squealed. "Of course I do!" Before Aiden knew what was happening, the Fiji boy had dashed over, knocked him to the ground, and attached himself to Aiden's head with a wrenching headlock. "Wait, DeBro, wait!" sputtered Aiden. "I wasn't ready yet." "Let go a minute. We need to discuss the ground rules." The bro released him. "I already know the ground rules. We throw each other on the ground. Them's the rules. I mean, we have to agree on what's allowed and what's not allowed. Tackling, tripping, chokeholds, things like that." The bro looked bewildered. Was the civilizer teasing him? He couldn't imagine any sort of wrestling that didn't involve tackling, tripping, and chokeholds. As a matter of fact, most Fiji dance steps involved at least one or two of those things. "Next thing," said DeBro, "you'll say there's no biting or head butting or eye poking. I thought we was having a wrestling match, not a sewing party." Actually, this was a bad example. Biting and headbutting were quite common at Fiji sewing parties. After a long negotiation, Aiden and DeBro settled on a hybrid sort of wrestling, half civilized, half Fiji, in which tripping, tackling, hair pulling, and headbutting were legal. Eye poking was prohibited, and biting was allowed only as a last resort. When the wrestling began, it was a frantic affair. The opponents rolled and tumbled and careened across the patch like two wild cats, one cannoning through the air, then the other. Arms and legs flailed in every direction as the two boys struggled. Aiden was an experienced wrestler, but he had never seen anything like DeBro. The Fiji boy was extremely strong for his size and impossibly quick. He twisted and spun like a young tornado, yet never seemed to lose control of his limbs. He clearly knew what he was doing. Nevertheless, Aiden held his own well enough. He had a significant advantage in both height and weight, and being the youngest of five brothers had taught him to be resourceful against superior opponents. Also, he was tougher than he looked. Still, Aiden suspected that the Fiji boy could finish him off any time he wanted. DeBro was toying with him a little. He didn't want to cut short an excellent wrestling match. He was having too much fun. For that matter, so was Aiden. DeBro had just thrown Aiden into the little creek and was grinding his face in the mud when they heard a stampede of hooves behind them and the frantic bleats of the sheep. "Bah! Bah! Bah!" Aiden and DeBro scanned the pasture to see what had troubled the sheep. At first, Aiden saw nothing, but DeBro elbowed him and pointed toward a brush pile at the forest's edge. There crouched a panther, ready to spring. Not an imaginary predator this time, but a real panther, with tan fur and big, meaty paws, about 6 feet long, with another 3 feet of tail. He had fierce golden eyes, black twitchy ears, sharp white teeth, and a long pink tongue, which at the moment was licking his chops. He seemed unable to decide which of the pretty lambs would be tastiest. Aiden fumbled for his sling, hoping to get a stone off before the big cat pounced. But DeBro scrambled up the creek bank. "What's some fun?" he shouted. "I never fought a panther before." He snatched up Aiden's staff from under the beech tree and charged recklessly toward the panther. From the corner of his golden eye, the cat saw DeBro coming and twisted around to face him. It bared its fangs and walled a deep rumbling moan that became a piercing scream. Still the wild boy came on, answering the panther's cry with the exuberant, sing-song battle yell of the Fiji folk. "Ha-wee!" The panther was back on its haunches, its ears flat against its head, when the bro thwacked Aiden's staff sharply between its eyes. Aiden had never seen such fearlessness or foolhardiness, as it turned out. A full-grown panther is not easily intimidated, even by a staff-wielding lizard boy. In fact, a blow from a shepherd's staff is just enough to make a panther good and angry. The cat reared up on its hind legs to make a lunge, and Debro gave it one more whack in the ribs, then dropped the staff and tore out across the pasture, back the way he came. By this time, Aiden had his sling and stone at the ready. He raised the sling and whirled it around his head. Debro's eyes were wild, but he wore a foolish grin. The panther was gaining on him. The sling whistled around Aiden's head, but he didn't have a shot. Debro was between Aiden and the panther, directly in the stone's path. The panther was closer still. Debro still had that insane grin as he pumped his arms and legs as hard as he could. Aiden summoned all his powers of concentration. He would get only one shot at the panther, one chance to rescue his new friend. Having reached its full speed, the cat was a tan blur. It would be on Debro in a blink. At the tiniest opening, Aiden would have to release the stone. Just when the panther got close enough to strike, Debro threw himself to the ground in a flying somersault. The panther leaped to pounce on him. This was the opening Aiden was looking for. He let fly. The stone whistled through the air and cracked into the panther's skull just below the ear. The cat screamed a sharp shriek of pain, then thudded heavily on top of Debro's crouching form. The panther was dead. Aiden's legs felt like rubber as he staggered over to the motionless heap of panther and Fiji boy. The cat moved, and Aiden instinctively reached for another stone, but he quickly realized that Debro was trying to hoist the panther off his back. Aiden pulled the big cat off and helped Debro to his feet. "Woo!" said Debro. "That rascal's heavy." He was still grinning that same grin. You all right, Debro?" The bro looked puzzled. "Course I'm all right. I ain't the one got hit with a rock." He was dusting off his gator skin tunic. "Yes, sir. Aiden of the Tam. I'd say we make a good panther killing team." The bro draws him out. Aiden knocks him down. "You don't mean you were trying to make the panther chase you?" "Sure I was. I seen you hit them stumps from 100 yards away, but I figured if you was gonna hit a moving target, we'd need to draw it a little closer." "But what if I missed?" "You wasn't gonna miss. You got what it takes. That's easy to see, even if you are a civilizer." A distant voice was calling from beyond the next pasture. "Aiden! Aiden!" One of the house servants was running toward them. "Aiden, run home at once." "That's just Evie," said Aiden, turning toward Debro. "You'll like him." But the Fiji boy had disappeared. One civilizer at a time was more than enough for Debro. Aiden turned around, looking for Debro in all directions. Not seeing him, he shrugged his shoulders and trotted down the manor house. When Aiden met Evie in the next pasture, the old servant gave him a perplexed stare. The tussle with Debro had left Aiden a mess. His face was scratched and streaked with mud, his hair was in a muddy disarray, and one eye was swollen. His wet tunic was ripped, and his knees and elbows were skinned. Evie looked him over from head to toe, then back up again. "Aiden," he said at last, "what happened to you?" "Well, first there was a bog owl," Aiden began excitedly. "Then Debro jumped out of the tree, and we had a wrestling match. But a panther came out of the woods, and I forgot I asked," the grouchy old servant interrupted. "I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Your father is waiting for you at the big house." It sounded important, so you'd better run along, young flibber tibbit to gibbet. I'll look after the sheep." Aiden ran along, stung by Ebby's insult. Flibber Tigabit, he muttered to himself. We'll see who's a Flibber Tibbigit when Ebby sees the panther I killed in the bottom pasture.